You imagine standing on this spot 500 years ago. The slope down into the village is alive with traders, animals and voices. There could be jugglers, there could be music. This is the kind of place where the whole village once gathered. Because markets weren't just for food, they were the centre of everything. Hi, my name's Kevin Hicks. Welcome to the History Squad. Now we're back in England. We're on location at the Weald and Downland Open Air Museum, and we're just about to take a little bit of a walk down what you might call a medieval street. We're going to have a look at a shop. Now, don't think of shops as today. In the medieval times, you wanted to buy something, you went to the shop, to the person who actually made it. You might pay with money, you might actually barter with goods. Let's go and have a look. Now this museum, this open air museum, they've taken houses that were falling down from all over the south of England. They've rebuilt them here, put them all back together. And you just look at this, we haven't even got to the shop yet. And just look at that wonderful gable end, isn't it? The medieval house. You'll notice there's no glass in the windows in this one. Now this little beauty here is the Horsham Shop. Now Horsham, market town in West Sussex, south of England. This building was built in the late 15th century and it has a typical timber frame construction of the time. But what I love about this house, this shop, this building, because it's all of those, is if you look at the way they've matched all of the woodwork, all of the beams. If you draw a centre line down the middle of the building, left and right mirror each other. So this isn't just a functional building. This is pleasing to the eye. It's nice to look at. And the other thing I love about it is it's a proper working building. Not some grand manor or Lord's Hall, but the kind of place ordinary people relied on every single day. It was probably built to replace a simple market stall. Maybe somebody did well for themselves and upgraded from a trestle table in the square to a solid purpose-built shop. And take a look at that roof. That's Horsham stone. I come across one of these shops in Tewkesbury and it's amazing to find one here open. So the whole house, the double front if you like, is owned. So the owner lets out this shop and you might have a tradesman there. So if we look inside, what they've put on display here are some of the wares that could have been made here, things that may have been on sale. On the right here on this chest you have a yoke and 2 buckets, so that's for the dairymaid, so that could be sold to the farmer. Then on the central trestle table you have a tray which is full of yarn that's been spun and put onto spools ready for sale. You also have some scales, so maybe they could trade in some spices or something, weighing it out. And on the back shelves you have some glazed jugs. But one of my favourites is over in the left hand corner at the back there, broom. Now the branches that have been gathered, they're put there to dry, they'll be cut and added to a broom stale, a branch, and of course it's a broom to sweep the shop clean. So on the other side here, this is likely where the person who owned the entire building had his shop. He would have traded from here as well as lived and worked. So he will have a shop, he will have something going on upstairs, a workshop or something like that, but his family will actually live and work upstairs. Now you've got to remember in those days, you have a baby and you're the mom, but very quickly you're going to be back to work. You don't just look after the house, you're part of the workforce. And when your baby grows just a little bit, he's walking around, they can start to do a few chores too. None of this going to school malarkey where they have to learn and be lazy in the morning. No, you get up, you're part of the family, part of the workforce. So before we move on, you've got to take a look at this Watland daub. This is a fantastic specimen. It's been left open for you. Nowadays, we use plasterboard or drywall, but back in the 15th century, what you have is woven wood. It could either be hazel or it could be willow, and then it's infilled with mud that's been mixed with horsehair. It's pushed in there, allowed to dry, smoothed off. In some of the originals I've seen, you can still see the thumbprints of the people who made it 500 and 600 years ago. So let's have a look at the back of the shop, because there's something going on here which is quite unusual, really. Come on. There's no chimney in these places. So if you've got a fire going, if you've got something that you're working on here, a smithy or whatever, the smoke literally just goes to the top of the ceiling, and it stays there till it dissipates out. These stairs as well, they really are steep. There's no luxury in there. That will be into the family either work area and then into their sleeping area. It's actually a 3-story building, so I should imagine on the next story you will have the workrooms, and then the family will live high up on the top floor. And it's interesting with these buildings because the plan of the lower floor is the building is so wide, then the next story juts out a little bit, and then the next story juts out a little bit more. And if you go back to the old Great Fire of London, was it 1666, they used to say that the people in the attics opposite the houses had grown so much they could open each other's window, or they could open their attic windows and lean across and shake hands with their neighbours. And that's what enabled the fire to spread so quickly in the Great Fire of London. But as we look outside, you will see how the building seems to lean forward. So if you look how it actually overhangs, then it overhangs again, but your floor plan is only this much. This is a technique called jettying. Literally, when they build the upper stories, they jut out, overhanging the ground floor area. There are structural benefits to this. Also, it helps protect the walls from the weather. There's also a theory that the reason you have the jettying is that property taxes were based on the ground floor area, so that you only paid the tax for the bottom part, and yet upstairs and then right on the top it was even bigger. But many historians nowadays, they dismiss that. As for me, I think it's a great idea. Make the upstairs bigger. I love it. Can you imagine what market day might have looked like back in the day in a small country town? Though alongside a few permanent shops and houses, you find a jumble of temporary stalls all laid out with all sorts of wares. Hurdle pens to keep animals in, chickens squawking in wicker cages, all sorts of goods and seasonal produce brought in to be sold, and the bustle of people and carts coming and going. At the centre of the market square, you might find a market cross or a stone pillar where traders would have gathered and announcements read out. But in this case here, we have the Tichfield Market Hall. So this is 1620 Market Hall, but these are still standing all over England. I've actually lectured in one in Shropshire and it was absolutely brilliant, just perfect. But this is important. Market day is the day of the week. You can imagine the traders in there, they might even set up, but there's a hidden little twist to this one. Under the stairs round the back here, it's the jail. If somebody's been kicking off on market day, he's a bit drunk, or there's been an argument, a bit of a fisticuffs, you'll put them in here, in the lockup. So we're going to go inside, we're going to have a look upstairs and investigate this building just a little bit further. This is where the serious business of the village or the small town would actually be discussed. The table, the chair. So you have your lord of the manor, perhaps conducting his business here, because this whole land will have been owned by one of the lords. So if the chap is brought upstairs, who's been put in for being drunk and disorderly, he'll stand there and they will deal with him. Or the business, the serious business of the land, when you got to pay your taxes, when you got to pay your rent, all those kind of things can be conducted in here. Whereas downstairs you might have the business of the market. They might have some small stall holders, just local people, labourers who also on the side they make various articles, might be brooms, they might spin some yarn, and it can all be sold on market day, bartered, traded or sold. It must have been really bustling, but of course in those days you didn't have the same food all the year round like we do now. You went with the seasons, so you'd have the apples in the season, the pears in the season, all the different fruits and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of business going on, and this room, very, very important. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was anybody ever condemned to death in here? So this is a half timbered construction, and you have these enormous beams, just one piece of wood. We've got 1, 2, 3, and there's one just here, 4. This beam is a single piece of oak, and you can see the support beams going up to support this incredibly heavy roof. Then you have the uprights, the corners, and these supports here go all the way down to ground level, and it's infilled with brick, and you can tell by the size actually these are your Tudor style bricks, smaller than your modern brick. But if you look on the inside, you can see we've got our rafters here going up, and then you've got your battens going across. And if you look, the tiles are actually pegged in. Your modern clay-fired tiles actually have a ridge behind them, so they just sit onto those battens. But these ones are actually pegged in, so this building is a peg-tiled construction, which I think is great. And of course it shows its status because there's glass in the window. And if you look at some historical pieces of glass, you can just see some here, but not actually completely see-through. They've got faults in them. The reason they could make small panes of glass, they couldn't roll glass like we have today. So you have your small panes which are leaded in to make one complete piece, and they always have to have a solid piece in the center wired, because otherwise you just push them out dead easy. Very expensive. So for a town, a small town, yeah, this is quite an upmarket building, excuse the pun, it being the market hall. But I do like these places, and as I say, a lot of them are still in use all over England. Amazing. You know, you visit here, it's easy to forget that these buildings were all somewhere else. And this Tichfield Market Hall was at Tichfield. Every single piece had to be numbered, taken apart, transported here, and then put back together. Some of these pegs, the bricks, everything all fits like this great big jigsaw puzzle. And if you find that one of the timbers is no good, they replaced it, and they're keeping it going all of the time. So it's not just an open air museum. This is actually a nod to modern craftsmanship. And you can see just over here where they've inserted new oak. So the old oak must have perished, yeah, on the outside here. It's wonderful. When you consider everything we're looking at, yeah, it was somewhere else. You can just imagine the old trestle tables set out here, can't you? Full of goods to be sold. Honey, candles, wooden bowls and spoons, cheese, butter and eggs, all kinds of things. So one of the things that have been going on in this market hall, a bigger one by the way, are often called guild halls, is you have your guilds working here. These are the ones who set the price for wheat. How many people can trade? Do you have too many competitors? Which I find interesting, because if you've got 4 shoe sellers, it's all going to be wrong, isn't it? And they ought to learn about that in the high street today, because you often have like 4, 5, 6 shops at the same. You don't need it. So in these little market towns, you will have fair trade. The quality of goods as well, and the weight of goods was all controlled by these guild members. And if you went wrong, you were in big trouble. If you shortchanged somebody, or you didn't give them the proper weight of food, you were upstairs, up in front of the master, and you will pay either in a hefty old fine or it's going to hurt you. These places worked, and it's the basis of our shopping industry and our trade industry. almost to the modern day, except things have changed, haven't they, really? You just go on your phone now and order something, or you know exactly which business park to go to get your goods. But this gives you an idea of what it must have been like. So as you can see, shopping in the medieval times, it wasn't just about buying and selling. It was all face to face. You knew the person who'd made the goods, you got the guilds setting the prices, the rules, all of that kind of stuff. It's not like today where you can just order something on your phone. Times were different. And I think in some ways they must have been a lot better. You knew who you were buying your stuff from. I like that. Reminds me of my childhood. So if you enjoyed our trip back into the medieval shopping experience, would you like, share and subscribe? And if you'd like to support the channel further, why not have a look at joining our Patreon community? The link is in the description. And before I go, quick shout out to some of our Patreon members. Now let's have a look. Grixer9, Richard Marriott Smith and Ryan Hawkins. Hey guys, thanks a million. Bye for now.